Hello everyone, welcome to a little studio session. I'm going to show you how I painted this scene on black paper using the new black brushes by Craftomo. I've been wanting a set of brushes specifically to use for acrylic gouache, so this is actually perfect timing. I decided that these would be my acrylic set. I have a lot of brushes. This is maybe only half of my brushes, but these ones with the turquoise handles are the brushes that I made with Craftomo. I absolutely love them. They are pretty much all I use nowadays. Most of my brushes I use for a variety of mediums. I don't just have specific things that I use each brush for. But when it comes to acrylic gouache or any acrylic, which is permanent when it dries, I really want to keep track of what brushes I'm using with that kind of thing so I can learn if it affects it over a long period of time. And also to remind myself that this set of brushes needs to be thoroughly washed every day, every time I use it, because usually I forget that I'm using acrylic gouache and I don't thoroughly rinse my brushes, and I have lost a few over the years to the fact that they just become so hard and unusable. Anyways, we're just gonna jump straight into the painting and I'm gonna share some thoughts about using these brushes. I'll give you some insights about the different brushes that come with the set and how I like to use them. I'll also share some tips about how to paint on black paper. It was something very new for me and I wasn't quite sure how to approach it at first. It's a totally different mindset to what I'm used to because I often like to preserve the paper color for different purposes in the painting. Like if it's white paper, I'll keep some of that white visible to be a highlight, kind of like watercolor mindset. So this was the opposite. And all of this black that you see that's remaining is the color of the paper. So I had to sort of reverse that in my head. Definitely a little bit wacky, kind of figuring that out, but I made it work. So this video is kind of a variety of things, and I hope you enjoy it and learn something. Before we get started, I want to let you know that there is a 10% off discount code. I will put a link to everything in the description, and if you decide to try them, definitely take advantage of that discount. So the first thing I noticed when I started using these brushes is that the hairs are a little bit more snappy. At first, I was thinking maybe I wouldn't like them, but as the painting went on, I realized it's actually kind of helpful because I was using acrylic gouache, which is a little bit goopier or stiffer than regular gouache because I don't add, I mean, I barely add any water. I use it pretty raw and it requires a bit more oomph to get the paint to flow. So having these hairs that were not quite so soft and bendy helped me stay in control and get the paint down exactly where I needed it to be, as well as blend into the layer before it dried. That's not to say the hairs are too stiff or anything. I did use them with regular gouache as well. Oh, that reminds me. Quick note is that I painted this recently with my set of brushes as well as a couple of the brushes from this set because it does come with a large mop brush and a large fan brush. And I typically don't use this size on a small piece of paper, but when I'm painting large, I really want big, juicy brushes. So just a note that I did try the bigger brushes, and as you can see, I was able to get some really cool atmospheric effects because I was loading this thing up with gouache, and I decided from now on, this is gonna be one of my main mop brushes because it holds so much water. It's pretty similar to my mop brush in my set, but just slightly different shape. Anyways, I just wanted to show you that the bigger brushes are very fun and usable. I just don't use them in today's session. So let's talk about painting on black paper or any kind of dark paper. I mentioned in the beginning that to me, the whole point is to use it in a way that utilizes the color of the paper. It just makes the most sense to me that way. Yes, you can cover it up completely with thick layers of gouache, but you know, why? What's the point? And because I often have scenes in my head of really intense lighting in a dark forest, for instance, I often have to paint the dark layer first and then paint on top of it. So using black paper or any kind of dark paper gets that step out of the way straight away. But I have to admit that I really had to stretch my mind a bit further than usual in figuring out how to utilize the dark color of the paper as part of the painting. In a way, when I think back on it, it should be so obvious because I do that all the time with white paper when I'm doing watercolor. But for some reason, reversing it just really made me struggle. So the only way I got through that was to imagine that I painted a very dark layer to start with, and then just jump straight into what I would normally do. Maybe this is just an issue that I have. Maybe it's just because I'm new to painting on dark paper. But yeah, it was just a struggle I had at first. The other thing is that it really helps to use thicker paint, so not diluting it quite as much as usual, which to me is perfect for acrylic gouache because I don't really like to add a lot of water to it. I like to use it nice and thick. The other thing that really helps is that I'm mixing on a dark gray glass palette, so I can see how bright the color is going to be before I put it on the dark paper. I definitely recommend using a dark palette of some kind. You can either put a dark piece of paper underneath a glass palette or get one that I have. And as a reminder, you can find a link for all of my favorite art supplies in the description. So back to the brushes, I definitely found that I was leaning heavily on the big flat brush because it's just one of my favorite shapes for painting. It's pretty much a 3/4 inch flat. It's slightly longer than the one in my set, so I really liked the shape of it. And it's really great for laying in those initial strokes, getting in some of the bigger areas. And then when it comes time to start doing some of the smaller areas, smaller details, I was totally obsessed with the filbert. It's a bit of a shorter filbert than what I've had in the past, and I kind of like that because the body of it is a little bit more stiff. It has nice soft rounded edges, but it holds its shape really well, and I was able to get a ton of beautiful dry brush textures with it really easily. I love the way a filbert almost acts like a flat brush, but it has a nice rounded edge, which gives my brush strokes a bit of a softer look. For a lot of the foliage in this painting, I ended up using the angle brush. And this one is nice because it's a little bit longer than one that I have already. And the body of this brush really holds its shape well, so you can get super fine details, really crisp brush strokes with it. I just found it to be the perfect leaf brush. And that reminds me of another tip I have about painting on the black paper is that I'm really only painting the light. I don't have to worry about painting shadows almost at all. I do add a bit of color to the shadows later, but for the most part, I'm just painting anywhere that I can imagine or I can see a tiny bit of light hitting the surface of an object, like the edge of a leaf or a fallen tree or just a glimmer on the stream. And then, of course, the light coming through the trees is going to have a bit more color and a bit more ambiance to it. Okay, I'm going to let you watch the rest of the painting process with a bit of relaxing music. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you at the end for a little chat. I said, it was a little bit tricky to get into the mindset of painting on black paper. This was actually one of my warm-ups, and as you can see, I didn't really preserve any of the paper to show through, so I felt like, what's the point? So when I did the forest scene, that's why I wanted to have some of the black showing through in the end to take advantage of that. So I think what I'm going to do from now on is use this black paper or dark paper for really dark, moody scenes. It makes the most sense to me. Anytime I think I'm going to need a dark background, I'll just use this kind of paper. But I did enjoy the process so much that I ended up ordering a whole pack of black paper. This is the Fabriano. It's called drawing paper, but it's quite thick, so I think it'll be fine for mixed media, or at least for gouache. And I'm going to be playing with this more because I have a lot of scenes in my head that kind of need that dark moodiness, especially forest scenes. But I also ordered a few bright colors, a dark pink and a turquoise. So I think this just has me thinking about layering a little bit differently. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this takes me. So I'm glad I have a set of acrylic gouache brushes now. That's what I'm using them for. As a reminder, there is a 10% off discount code in the description if you want to try these brushes out. I also decided that the box that the brushes came in, I took out the foam insert and I'm going to use it to store my dark paintings. So that's it for me today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're inspired to go paint, and I will see you again soon. Take care.